name is Erin, and welcome to the Tarotology podcast. Today, we're going to be taking a close look at love in the tarot ahead of this Valentine's Day holiday this coming weekend. So now that we are officially well underway in February and feeling this Aquarius energy, I hope everyone is doing well and that they made it through January all right. We'll also be looking a little bit closer at the end of our discussion today at some of the energy that we have coming up in the next couple of days, really, for February, looking at the new moon in Aquarius, all of the energy in Aquarius as we have a planetary pile-up going on. But first, let's start with the tarot, the concept of love. So when we talk about love, there are just so many different types of love. There's romantic love, there's platonic love, brotherly love. There's so many different types of love out there. So I thought that it would be pretty neat to spend some time looking at the cards in the tarot that really have strong associations with love, different aspects of love, really. Let's look first at the major arcana, and see what we can really extrapolate some strong correlations between their meaning and certain types of love. Like I said, many different types. No surprise, probably the number one card anyone would think of when talking about love in the tarot, and especially in the major arcana, would be the Lovers card. And just looking at the imagery, it's usually two figures that seem to be in some sort of a relation, in some sort of a blissful relationship or union. And this really captures two different types of love. It's ludus, which is playful love, that fun, that free, that light interaction. And also eros, that romantic love, the physicality, the physical, material, bodily connection that you have being drawn to another individual. And this card really is about being in relation with another individual. At this point in the journey, the Fool is learning what it is to define himself in relation, in proximity to another being. There's a dualism that is starting to form. There's an identity of self as expressed by means or vis-a-vis the identity of the other. And this card encapsulates the give and take that is necessary for love and for commitment to another person. It's about the balance that one has to strike. So it's pretty easy to pinpoint, just the name, the Lovers card. It's easy to see that this is, in fact, a love card in the tarot. No surprise. If we look at the majors, there are several other cards that we can say are love cards. There's the Empress card and the Emperor card together. They're both parental figures. And that's Storge, the familiar love, that which flows between the parent and the child, the bond between parent and offspring. And these two figures, these two cards, are the ultimate parents. They love those under their care or protect those, their charges. With the Empress, it's more maternal, motherly, nourishing love. And the Emperor is the more authoritarian, guiding, caretaker, provider, protector. But there's this familiar love that we can see in these two cards. And then there's the Hierophant, which is also a love card. It is the community. We have the lovers being in relation to other. We have the parents, the Empress and the Emperor, being in relation to family. And then we have the Hierophant being in relation to the community at large. And the Hierophant is philia, brotherly love, or agape, the selfless love for fellow man. The card represents the respect for one another and for traditions or established units like the community or like the family even. So already just in the first few cards, we have several love cards in one form or fashion. And then there are actually two other major cards, major arcana that I wanted to touch on that may be surprising to some. They wouldn't necessarily draw that connection between these cards and love, but I do think it's definitely there. And the first is justice. Justice is pragma. It's that mature love that requires effort and develops over time and comes through knowing another. And that includes knowing their faults and loving them despite their faults or their shortcomings. And the Justice card asks us to really look closely and assess, is this someone I want to be with? Taking into consideration the totality of their being, the good and the bad. The card has strong associations with Libra and the scales and the idea of balance. And we look at the Egyptian underworld and Maat. To get into the underworld, you have to weigh your heart against the weight of a feather. And this same sort of calculus comes into the equation with the Justice card when it comes to partnerships and romance. We weigh the value of being with that person. Is it good for us? Does it serve us? Are they found wanting? And then we leave them. Or if they pass the test, then we stay together. And that's true love, right? It's, I see you for all you are, the good, bad, and ugly. And despite all that, I'm all in. Definitely, like I said, a mature love that takes that effort and commitment and discerning. And then the last card I want to talk about in the major arcana. And I mean, you could argue that there's love aspects in pretty much any card, but these are the ones that really stick out to me. And that would be the Devil. And that's our 50 Shades of Grey love. It is the eros, the romantic love, the physical love, that attraction, the chemistry, and mania, the obsessive love. This is the love that restrains us, that keeps us tied down, that maybe doesn't necessarily serve us. And so it is our desire, our selfish desire, that we can actually see in the Devil card. If you look at some of the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, there usually is depicted chained the two individuals, and they frequently are the same individuals found in the Lover's card because of that eros, that romantic love, that physical love, that attraction, and what happens when there's no substance to it, or what happens when it goes wrong, goes too far. It becomes out of balance. Balance is so crucial when it comes to the lovers, when it comes to the Justice. There's that idea of give and take and sharing and discerning. And when it goes completely out of balance, when you get too much of that eros, it can become mania. It can become problematic, but it is in fact a love card. Maybe not the healthiest love card. And then we look at the minors. We've looked at the major arcana. In the minor arcana, there are several love cards in there as well. And again, this is not necessarily an exhaustive list, but a few that I've identified as more poignant and representative of the different types of love, albeit probably with a little bit more of an emphasis on the romantic love because Valentine's Day. So the first one that I chose was the Ace of Cups. And that is that initial opening oneself up to love, the possibility of love and all kinds of love. The love that heals, that nourishes like the water. It's the receptivity to the emotional, to the spiritual, to feeling, to love. And then not too much further, we have Two of Cups, very next one in the sequence of the pips, the cups. There we have two. We have the duality again, the idea of balance. And that's the healing union of opposites. We have new relationships there. Again, that two, the dual nature. We are relating. We have ourself and we have other. And we are defining ourself in relation to other and exploring what that means. And so this is just the first step of learning that give and take the lovers encapsulates. And then the Four of Wands, which I love this card so much. It is cosmic affirmation when you get this. At least that's how I see it as. So you're on the right path. And this is all about the union, the marriage. It's kind of the idea of the Empress and the Emperor together, or the Hierophant. The idea of the institution, the coming together, often represents marriage because of that. And the 4 is a stabilizing number. It's foundational. You'll notice actually as I go through these, all these numbers are even numbers with the exception of the ace because, again, balance and stability. It's stable, it's solid, even keel. So the next one is the 8 of Wands. And that one's probably a slightly unusual one to choose, but it is the chemical rush that you get of falling in love. It's that sudden euphoric feeling where you're just tumbling. It's all new and exciting and so fast. And just exploring everything, discovery, the whoosh, And the 10 of Cups, the last of the pips. That's our family love, our contentment with ourselves, contentment at home, this happiness, happy love card, happy all around. Again, that Storge, the Philia. And the last card I wanted to touch on is one of the court cards, and that is the Knight of Cups. And you'll notice here I chose all cups and wands. Cups because that has to do with the water element, which is the feeling, the emotion, the spiritual, and the love. And the wands because it has to do with the fire and the passion and the energy and the chemical impulses, desires, and willpower. And so in our court cards, the Knight of Cups. And the Knight of Cups, he is the romantic, the knight in shining armor who sweeps us off our feet, the gallant hero in all the fairy tales. Perhaps a little immature, maybe the one you want, maybe not the one you need, maybe not quite the experienced, rational individual, but the individual that wears their heart on their sleeve and is eager to fight for their emotions. So those are some of the cards that I identified for our little exploration here of love in the tarot ahead of Valentine's Day. And with that, I'm going to shift just a little bit and talk about what we have going on right before Valentine's Day and heading into the Valentine's Day holiday. And that is the new moon that is coming February 10th and 11th, depending on where you are. And it will be the start of a new cycle, a new month. So good for setting intentions for things that you would like to carry out for the next month, as it sort of color or shade the mood of the month. But this month, not only do we have the sun and the moon in Aquarius, which is what happens when we have a new moon, the sun and the moon conjoin in a specific location in this cosmos, in this case in Aquarius, but we also have all of the traditional planets except Mars. So we have the sun, we have the moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, all of them hanging out in Aquarius right now. Usually when there are about 3 or 4 planets in a single spot in the zodiac, they're all crunched up together, conjunct. We would call that a stellium. Well, this would be a superstellium. It's not incredibly rare. It does happen, but it's sort of infrequent. And having this many, all of the traditionals except Mars in one sign, doesn't happen that often. And so this one is happening, as I said, in Aquarius. And why does that matter? Well, if you've been listening or if you've been keeping up with the astrology, you know that recently we had the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, and that kicks off another 20-year cycle of what we can expect the energy to be like and what we can expect some of the major themes of the next 20 years to be like. And so that's going to be very Aquarian energy. And so this month kind of gives us this nice little precursor of what we can expect. We can see in this month, there's a lot of Aquarian energy. What happens in this month, the themes that we see emerging in our lives, in the greater world, pay attention to them, because you may find that they carry over and that this is like a little precursor or a microcosm of what to expect for this next 20-year period. So all of the Aquarius buzzwords we think about, right? Progressive, technology, mobile or airy, floats around. It's not tethered, it's free. Alien or other, humanitarian, sometimes aloof. I like to think of Aquarius as kind of like the sci-fi genre of the signs. If we have Pisces as maybe like the fantasy, Scorpio is probably like the detective mystery or the 50 Shades of Grey or vampire romance type. That's an idea. If someone wants to try and identify what the different genres of literature each sign would be associated with, I think that'd be a fun project. I'd love to hear that. So we have all of these planets hanging out in Aquarius, which is pretty neat, but Mercury is retrograde right now, and it will be for most of the month in Aquarius. So especially with our air sign, our communication element, and Aquarius very techno forward, there are probably going to be some glitches going on. So just to take that into account. Generally speaking, a Mercury retrograde time is not the best to pursue any sort of contracts, anything that you have to negotiate, or any major purchases, especially related to technology, because you may find that you have to like retrograde, right? To go back, to return, to reflect upon. And so you may find that you have to go back to the contract and renegotiate. Something didn't work out. So if you can help it, postpone it. But if it's pressing, don't put your life on pause. Mercury retrogrades 3 times a year, sometimes 4. It's not worth it to plan your life around it. But when you can help it, if you have the wiggle room and the wherewithal, if you can postpone, I would recommend doing that for some of the bigger decisions. Anyway, so we have all these planets piling up in Aquarius. So one thing that's really neat to do, and especially if you're an astrologer or astrology student and you are exploring different house systems, if you like Placidus or Koch or Porphyry or whole sign houses, it might be a great time for you to look at your different charts using the different systems and figure out where this hits for you. What houses or house is Aquarius in? If it changes, maybe it doesn't, but for some people it can switch it significantly. And then see what's going on in your life, in your everyday life, to see what area of your life seems to be most impacted. So if it correlates with one area specifically, let's say that you have Aquarius in the 3rd house and you have car issues, and then you fight with your sibling, and your child has some problems with their elementary school. That seems to be a pretty good indicator that 3rd house is right on. But if there's maybe some overlap there, then definitely pay attention to that and see if it's maybe not just the 3rd house, maybe it's the 2nd house as well that's getting hit. So it's definitely a fun thing to do when there's this much of a pile up, to see how it's impacting you, because then you can really feel it when it's that much, that concentrated. If you are a tarot reader, so Aquarius is associated with the Star card. If we look in the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition on the tarot decks, usually you will see some sort of a beautiful androgynous figure, maybe male, maybe female, pouring water into a lake, stream, body of water. And this really harkens back to the story of Ganymede. And Ganymede was this beautiful young man that was spirited away by Zeus to become his cupbearer on Mount Olympus. And so Ganymede is associated with the constellation of Aquarius, and that's how we get this correlation between the Star card and Aquarius. And the idea of this pouring water in the card, the pouring water, is like pouring healing or pouring hope out into the world. So just pay attention if you are doing your tarot readings to see if you get the Star card more than usual during this month. What ripples is the Star card making in your life at this time? Well, if you're interested in learning more about the tarot, I just wanted to give a quick update that my next Foundations of Tarotology series will be beginning on February 24th. So just after Mercury goes direct again. It will be a 5-week class meeting on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It's an online class. So if you are interested, I would love to have you join. Please feel free to visit my website at learntarology.com so you can get more information about that class. Other events that we have, there's a meetup that's online first Tuesday of every other month. I know that's confusing, but you're welcome to join that as well. That is free and open to anyone who is able and willing to meet up with other tarot enthusiasts and tarot readers to give practice readings. April 6th. Yes, that's a Tuesday. So that'll be the next one. And yeah, feel free to check out the Learn Tarology website to keep up with all of that information, or if you want to book a reading or just learn more. I'm so glad that you decided to share this time and listen today. I hope you got something out of this. Happy Valentine's Day and happy February and Aquarius month, Super Aquarius month, or at least Super Aquarius week going on right now. So I wish you all the best. Thank you so much again for joining. Until next time, take care.